Hi, friends, and welcome back to Nobody Knows, podcast dedicated to the ones who are still trying to figure it all out in life. I hope you're having a wonderful day and are thriving with this. I would call this summer weather. It's like very hot. I was taking this little one out earlier today and I had this sweatsuit on and it was not cute. I was sweating profusely. So I'm so glad that we have the hotter weather, but I'm going to have to figure out my wardrobe situation because the work from home outfits are very Lululemon leggings, sweatpants, and I need like a summer version of that because it's hot out anytime I go outside. If you're watching this on YouTube, you might have noticed a few different things. First, starting with little Lair Bear here. So, this is Larry. This is the newest addition to our family. He was adopted almost a month ago, actually. And he's just the cutest little bean ever. I love him so much. So does Brendan. And we are just so lucky to have him a part of our family. And he is in his forever home. And we're just loving life, experiencing life with Larry. You also might recognize that this setup is different from how it used to be. That's because Brendan and I moved in together. Essentially, I moved into Brendan's house. It is now our home, even Larry's home. So we're working through, making space for me, making space for Larry, redecorating, purging some things, getting rid of some things, and speaking of, I think we're going to have to move these medals out of here eventually, but for right now, please enjoy Brendan's array of running medals because he's worked hard for those, definitely. But I think that's more catered to his content, not Nobody Knows. But who knows? They might be here for a while. We're gonna take it one day at a time, rejig some things, but this is the setup for now, and just getting used to it. So things might change as we go along. And I think me even saying I've moved in with Brendan is kind of a shocker. It's something I'm getting used to still because me, as a 28-year-old, this is my first ever serious relationship. And this is the first time I've ever lived with a boy before, which is kind of shocking being that I'm 28. But I think I am not the only woman that's in this boat. As we grew up in an age where we dated a lot of fuckboys and a lot of players and a lot of men who just did not want to settle down. So now that I have found Brendan and we've moved in together, it's still kind of like a pinch me moment because I'm surprised I even found him. And in episodes 6 and 12, I shared how, the majority of my life I've been the quote unquote like single girl. And I dated a lot of people, but none of those relationships ever developed into anything serious. And so if you're in the same boat, if you have that feeling of you've always been single or you feel like you've been single your entire life, you'll know that when you've dated what feels like the entire planet, you learn what you don't like quickly. So when I met Brendan, again, it was a little bit of like a pinch me moment, like, is this man real? And of course he was, but once I got used to it, it was kind of like a no-brainer that this relationship was going to be a serious one. And so then in last episode, I mentioned or alluded to all of these changes that I was going through, and these were all the changes. I was moving out of mine and my roommate's place in Ottawa and essentially hauling myself and all of my things to Brendan's so that we could live together on top of completing an application form for this little guy. So it was a lot. Like, even saying that one sentence, there's so many different feelings associated with all of those different changes and so many points of growth that I experienced within a really short time. So I wanted to chat through those feelings today, and because I was experiencing them pretty much simultaneously, and I was like, I know I'm not the only person that's ever felt this way or that's experienced this. So I want to chat, sort of word vomit them all out to you, and hopefully you can relate on some level. Because I can tell you, as someone who's always wanted to move in with her life partner, find my forever person, my boyfriend, fiance, husband eventually, now that I'm here, I can tell you for free that I had no freaking clue what I was doing this entire past month. I was just sort of figuring it out as I went. I guess to make this make sense and to sort of give context as to my feelings, let's also settle in for a little bit of a quick story time so that this sets the scene and it all makes sense. So at the beginning of 2022, I've also talked about this in a few previous episodes, I was single. I had kind of sworn off men. I had gone through several bad relationships that had left me depressed, heartbroken, and really needing to focus on myself and do the work. But seriously, actually sit down, reflect on me, how I process hardships, how I process other people treating me specific ways, and work through that. So I had sworn off men. I was living on my own. I was working from home, and I was kind of in like a funk. Like, I wasn't really making great connections with new people because I didn't want to put myself out there. I was working from home, so that didn't really like draw me out of the house. So I was kind of like in my like sad girl era. And of course, I was talking to my friend Maddie about this, and she was like, why don't you move to Ottawa? That's where she was living at the time. And she was also single. She was working not from home, but like had a really new, exciting job there. So she was like, why don't you move to Ottawa? We could live together, share rent. So that's a win-win. We'll have more income, both of us. We can decorate our apartment all nice. We can live together. We'll experience new experiences together. Who knows, we'll meet a man. And I was like, sure, that sounds great. Why wouldn't I do that? So we had planned to move in together at the beginning of April because that's when Maddie's previous lease was up. And of course, I shit you not, I met Brendan second, third week of January. So I was in a weird situation. I was like, do I want to explore this new relationship, or do I want to focus on moving to Ottawa and focus on myself? And I was like, I can kind of do both, but with the main emphasis on focusing on myself. I remember saying to myself, I'm going to do what I want to do, and if this relationship blossoms, grows alongside me doing what I want to do, great. If it doesn't, who cares? I'm still doing my own thing. I won't necessarily get as hurt as I had in the past. Of course, that didn't really go to plan because Brendan and I grew very close, and we were in a relationship by the time I had moved in with Maddie in Ottawa in April. So my whole plan of being like single kind of went out the window. I had to somehow balance a new relationship and, might I add, a long distance relationship while also honoring the somewhat of the plan that I had set out with Maddie and exploring Ottawa, trying new things, just enjoying our beautiful apartment that we had. And the year that we had together was incredible. I had the best time in Ottawa. Albeit I probably didn't have as much time as I wanted because I was traveling to and from Brendan's and he was coming to Ottawa, but I had a really incredible time. My relationship with Maddie grew stronger, something that I don't think a lot of people have the privilege of experiencing, living with your best friend. Everyone's always like, don't live with your best friend, it's going to ruin your relationship, and that did not happen with us. We became closer than we ever had, and we had some really incredible experiences together. So of course, as last year transitioned into this year, then came the question of, okay, well, our lease is coming up end of April. What do we do? Then I'm faced with the decision of, do I extend our lease and continue to live with Maddie and continue doing long distance with Brendan, or do I take the leap of faith and move in with Brendan and explore our relationship further? And there were so many feelings and thoughts going through my head as I tried to work through this decision. And the biggest feeling I was experiencing was fear. I was scared shitless. I just did not want to make the wrong decision. And I think objectively, neither of them would have been a bad decision. It just would have been like, what do I want to do in my heart of hearts, right? And what am I ready for? I was afraid of losing my independence and personal space. Moving in with Brendan meant a large adjustment. Not only just moving in with him, but this is my first time moving in with a boy, sharing space with a boy. I had never done this before. And prior to this period, we were doing long distance, right? So it was 3 hours away from each other. So we had our own designated living spaces. Whereas now when we came together, we were going to be with each other 24/7. sharing different parts of the house, right? So that was something I had to get used to. As someone who has been quote unquote single her entire life, it can be a very large adjustment to then now have someone with you all the time. I was afraid of the commitment of living together. Moving in with someone is so official and it sounds like such a big step, and you're essentially giving trust into the other person that we're both going to make this work, as well as I had to give more trust on my end because I was moving into Brendan's house, whereas we weren't moving in and like sharing a lease together. My like avoidant old self came out and was like, well, what happens if this doesn't work out? Where am I going to end up? Am I going to be on the street with all of my belongings? I've never lived with a boy before. What if he's gross? How does that work? Like, so many excuses, and some fair and some valid, like actual questions about how this is logistically going to work came about, but a lot of it fed to my anxiety. I was also afraid of losing the excitement and the spontaneity of like the early stages of our relationship, and also just the natural cadence of our relationship, because we had been long distance, so we would go sometimes weeks without seeing each other, and that would build up the excitement of us getting to see each other again because we hadn't seen each other for so long. So I was curious, how is that going to work now that we literally live together? We see each other every day. Are we still going to be excited? Are we still going to have that same zest like we used to? And furthermore, I didn't want us to become roommates, even though technically we are. I wanted us to still be in a relationship and truly love each other and have that romantic aspect still. On the other hand, I was also afraid of letting Maddie down. I knew that me leaving her or leaving Ottawa was going to be a lot of work for her on her end, because she wasn't going to be able to continue the lease where we were currently at, because it was going to be far too expensive. It was a 2-bedroom lease. There was no way she was going to be able to afford that on her own. So she, in turn, would have had to find a new apartment, get movers, plan all that out, and move herself somewhere else. So I knew that me making a specific decision was going to impact her, and I was really struggling with that, and I felt guilty of like letting her down and adding all of this work onto her. And then lastly, I was also afraid of how this decision was going to affect my relationship with Maddie. Like I said, we had built up such a strong or even stronger connection. And I knew that if I decided to move out, a part of that would be lost because we weren't living together anymore. We weren't going to see each other day over day, you know? We weren't going to be able to come home after work, sit down, have a glass of wine, and talk about our days, or just like shoot the shit. We were going to have to put in more effort to have those connection points. And ultimately, after I thought about all of these different things I was afraid of, worked through my thoughts, I made a decision, and I determined that moving in with Brendan was the next step in our relationship, and that I had to give us the chance to figure out this next step, or to at least explore this next step in our relationship. And I knew I wasn't going to have answers to all of those questions. I wasn't going to solve all of my anxieties, but I had to take the leap of faith and figure it out with him. And I'll tell you, thank God I did do that, because the past month has been pretty remarkable. Of course, I'm not going to lie, there has been some bumps in the road, if you will, some sort of hard parts where we've had to figure out, okay, one, our communication styles, and two, us working. Sometimes we both work from home. Just like the roller coaster that you kind of go through of getting to know someone's living style 24/7, right? But at the end of the day, we've always come back together, realigned on what's most important to each of us individually, as well as what's important to us as a couple. And then furthermore, while it is remarkable and I'm so happy and overjoyed that it has worked out, it's still such a bittersweet feeling because I don't get to see my best friend every day anymore. And it made me realize that you're going to get to where you want to be one day. Like, hello, hi. Personally, for me, I've achieved one of my biggest goals in life. And who knows, maybe for you, you've also experienced that. But I think we're so quick that once we've arrived here, we're already thinking about 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line of something else. So we don't get to sit in the present and really be like, wow, like 5 years ago, or when I was a young kid, I've always wanted this, and sit with this and be present and just really cherish this moment. That for me, I'm trying to work on and be present. And when I was living with Maddie, I tried to do that too, because in the back of my mind, I was like, this is going to end one day. I'm not going to live with Maddie forever. So when I was living with her, I would try my best to be as present as possible and just really appreciate the moments that we had together. And likewise, now I'm doing that with Brendan, just trying to be so grateful and be like, give myself a pat on the back, even like, this is what I wanted my entire life. And I've finally got it. It's kind of getting me choked up a little bit, but it is so funny that people want something for so long to the point where sometimes it feels like they're never going to achieve it, and then one day it just clicks and it works out and you've arrived, and all of that worry and stress of like if you ever going to achieve it sort of goes away, and you're like, it all makes sense now as to why it's taken so long. And the second point was, things change constantly. Like, change is the only constant. So if you are in a great spot right now, cherish it. Just appreciate it. Enjoy it fully, because you never know where you could be in a month or a year down the line. And that's not to say things are going to go downhill, but it's like, just sit with it and be happy about it and be grateful that you're here. And then flip it and reverse it if you are in a bad spot. Know that your dreams are possible, that your goals are attainable. So, with all that said, I would love to know your experiences of moving in with your partners, with your loved ones, and how that went. If you're in the same boat as me and you've literally never moved in with a partner before and are sort of navigating the highs and lows and like figuring out how to best live with this person, I would love to know your input, your feedback. You can reach out to me on Instagram at Nobody Knows Podcast, or on TikTok at Nobody Knows Podcast, followed by an underscore. And until next time, bye, friends.